Something I noticed about myself is that I tend to switch between two extremes. On one hand, I can be very reserved, keeping to myself, not saying too much. Then other times, I just say everything. This book is me opening up my heart and saying everything. It's real, it's raw, and it's unfiltered. This is the story of the most significant experiences of my life and how they relate to my journey walking with God. This is Peeling Off the Layers by David D'Antonio Jr. This chapter describes my childhood and the type of person I was growing up in high school. Most importantly, I talk about what my relationship with God looked like for the majority of my life. Chapter 1. What God meant to me. From being an altar server for many years to my dad being the head of ushers at church, it's safe to say my family was pretty deep in the Catholic Church. Since I was a young child, I remember my dad always stressed the importance of going to church and making it to heaven. Therefore, we were faithful Catholics, attending Mass regularly and participating in the annual church traditions. Isn't that the correct path to heaven? That's what I believe. Considering these ideas were firmly taught since childhood, I always believed that God is real and Jesus is God. Romans 10:9 tells us, if you declare with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. However, does that mean I was always saved? Here's the problem. I never had a deep relationship with God. I knew of God, but I did not walk with him. I believed Jesus rose from the dead, but my life did not reflect that. My heart was filled with lust, hatred, idolatry, jealousy, gossip, blasphemy, and more. In this chapter, I talk about significant events and critical seasons of life throughout college that drew me closer to God. More specifically, I highlight getting cut from the LSU band during my last year of college. Chapter 2. Drawn to the Lord. Fast forward to lunchtime, the director sent the list and I start driving to practice. A couple of minutes after leaving the house, I decided to double check the list just to make sure I actually made it. I scrolled through that entire list and did not see my name. My heart sank to my chest and I pulled over. Surely this must be a mistake. I scrolled up and down that list so many times you would have thought I lost my mind. While I'm halfway in denial, reality begins to settle in. I called my section leader and I told him I didn't see my name. He was very surprised and said he would talk to the band director. However, we both knew there was no possibility of reversing the cut, but it was enough to give me some peace of mind. In order to get closure, I emailed my band director and asked for the critiques of my audition. Honestly, I just needed to hear that it wasn't a mistake and my audition really was that bad. He sent them, and to paraphrase, I responded, I understand the process is not easy. I had a great time with y'all. I am glad someone else will be able to experience what I did, and I hope y'all have a great season. He responded positively and told me I would always have a friend in him. This gave me closure and peace, but more importantly, I put my trust and faith in God that everything happens for a reason. I told people I believed it was God's will and his plan for this to happen, and that was enough for me to move forward in peace. 2 weeks pass and I get a phone call from the band director. He tells me some unfortunate events happened and there's an open spot to get in the band, and I was the first person he thought of. Glory be to God. This chapter highlights a single event in my life in which I encountered a truly demonic entity that desired to take my life. This experience woke me up to the evil that exists and the realness of the spirit realm. Chapter 3. Demon Attack. The most desperate and hopeless I felt was when he grabbed me and charged our bodies into my bedroom. My door was slightly open, so he crashed through the door and landed onto my bed. This happened so fast that the doorknob actually left a hole in the wall. Now here I am on my back, using my legs to hold his body back, fighting for my life in my own bedroom. Like a demonic UFC fight, the experience was very surreal and violating. I realized there's something very dark about fighting for your life in your own bed. Exhausted and running solely on adrenaline, I was desperately hoping that my roommate was going to walk through the door and rescue me, but I was seemingly on my own. This chapter describes the months following the demon attack and highlights how I reduced my inner circle to only my girlfriend, my roommates, and my best friend. These changes were very critical to happen before God started transforming me from the inside out. Chapter 4, Isolation Time. Around Halloween time, I met a girl on a dating app called Bumble. She was a sweet, beautiful, and modest girl. We clicked on the app instantly, FaceTiming each other the same day we got in contact. The connection formed easily and naturally. Neither of us had to put on a fake face or act a certain way to attract each other. In fact, I felt so confident in our connection, I told her, I have a feeling we're going to be in each other's lives for a long time. Once we realized the mutual interest, we agreed to take things slow, and we plotted future date ideas such as roller skating, bowling, and playing Mario Kart. She was unique from any other girl I've dated or met before, in ways that's hard to put into words. The best way I could describe it was like God made her special, just for me. Early on, we had many dates at the library, where we both worked on our own projects, and it was a beautiful way to spend casual time together. We truly found happiness and companionship with each other, and we both felt like we've known each other for a long time. I recall studying for the CPA exam and looking across at her, wondering if she could possibly be my wife to experience the future I was trying to build through accounting. This chapter describes the series of changes that took place in my heart after I started reading the Bible for the first time and started taking my walk with God more seriously. Chapter 5, Change of Appetite. After receiving the Bible from Chris, it took me a couple of weeks to pick it up and start reading. I may not have understood everything I was reading, but I experienced a sense of peace and spiritual fulfillment that was new to me. What I realized is that we all have a spiritual void in our hearts that desires God's presence and a relationship with Him. This is because we are composed of a soul, spirit, and body, aka our flesh. Our soul is composed of our mind, will, and emotions. However, our spirit comes from heaven, and that is what craves the presence of God. However, Galatians 5:17 tells us, "For the flesh desires what is against the spirit, and the spirit desires what is against the flesh. These are opposed to each other, so that you don't do what you want." Now this means that our flesh and spirit have opposite desires, which are in a constant battle, and it's our soul's job to choose which desire to satisfy. Therefore, rather than seeking God, we often try to fill the void in our spirit by satisfying the desires of our flesh. This includes partying, drugs, sports, entertainment, fame, wealth, prestigious careers, sex, and even our partners. Chasing any of these desires will never fully satisfy us or bring us true joy and peace. More importantly, placing these desires above God is called idolatry, and I personally have been guilty of idolizing many of these, including my girlfriend. During this season of life, I was actively seeking God through reading, attending church regularly, watching Christian content on YouTube, and trying to live righteously. While being in a hot pursuit for God, I was confronted with contradictions within the Catholic Church. Chapter 6, Convictions in Catholicism. The more time I spent on Christian YouTube, the more I heard people talking down about Catholicism and pointing out contradictions with the religion. It bothered me to hear these things, and I was in complete denial whenever I heard it. Oftentimes I looked up videos of Catholic priests and other people making arguments to defend Catholicism. Sometimes it would give me relief, other times I felt more confused and unsatisfied. Whenever I heard arguments against Catholicism, I would feel a great conviction that disturbed my peace of mind. I tried to ignore it, but something in my heart wouldn't allow me to let it go completely. This period of questioning my faith and searching for truth went on for about 4 months, leading up to the Italy trip in July. It was a gradual process that left me on the fence between religion and a relationship with God. What I came to realize is that there's a difference between these two things, and most people only hear about religion. However, a relationship with God is intimate and direct. In this chapter, I describe my pilgrimage to Italy with the local Catholic Church. During this trip, I was completely surrounded by die-hard Catholics on a religious-centered trip after I already left the religion in my heart. Chapter 7, Crossing the Border. This trip was very significant in my walk with God because I was processing these new revelations and contradictions right before going on a pilgrimage with young, passionate Catholics to the Catholic capital of the world. It was certainly a test of faith and loyalty because God had revealed just enough for me to know that there were some errors with the religion. However, I was still an infant in Christ, so I didn't know exactly what and why different things were wrong. I just knew I had to keep my eyes and ears open, and I couldn't bite the apple from the wrong tree. I will never forget, Chris told me before I left, "Do not compromise." Those 3 words rang in my head on repeat for 12 days. I never knew when I was going to be tested or confronted with a compromising situation, so I was constantly on guard. Throughout the trip, I prayed for discernment and observed as much as I could, but it wasn't clear where the line was between right and wrong. It's similar to walking around in the woods and someone tells you, "There are 10 fake trees in this forest, now walk around and find them." I was cautious, trying to discern right from wrong and pay attention to every detail. However, this is even more challenging when the people around you are absolutely convinced every tree in the forest is real. Realizing my belief system was different than everyone else, I felt completely set apart and like an undercover spy this entire trip. The more the trip went on, the more this double-minded feeling drained my spirit and wore me out. Yo, what's good, y'all? This is Peeling Off the Layers by David D'Antonio Jr. My journey walking with God. Y'all, I encourage y'all to stay connected with us. I also encourage y'all to get this book, y'all. It's very, very deep and vulnerable, and it'll be releasing soon, December 2024, in Amazon and in person, so you can get it either way. Y'all, to aid your growth in the Lord, visit our YouTube channel at ETD TV. If you would like to support the ministry, you can cashapp us or Venmo us, and you can also contact us by email below. And for more information, follow the IG. Y'all, God bless y'all. I love y'all. Peace out.